so many of them that fills the jar all the way up so tight they get moldy. You got to watch for the mold. So you just have a small layer of alfalfa seeds down at the bottom. You fill it up to water. You sit down. You go to sleep, and then let it soak. In the morning.
It doesn't matter if it's dark or light or whatever it's sitting in.
You should keep it dark while it's soaking, in the soaking stage. That's a good point. So in the morning, you just take it and you put it on a dish rack like this. Again, I bought this down at the dollar store for about $5. And this will hold 3 of these jars or about 4 of these jars. And you just let it drain out, and then you keep it watered every, depending on how hot it is, every 6 to 8 hours. Over the course of right now, I got to do it about 3 times a day, water, because they'll dry out.
So you put the water on, it sits in the dark for 8 hours, it's got about half of the jar.
Just immerse it in water.
And then in the morning, you just dump the water to drain out?
Yeah, I dump it in my kitchen drain. I drop it in my kitchen drain like so, let it sit there until it, it's almost drained out. And then I can put a towel under here, or you can put a little tray under here. And then you just let it sit like that. And you put the towel over it again. And in about a day or so, it'll start to sprout. You'll start to see this.
How over? You don't put any more water in or soak it again?
Well, every 6 to 8 hours, you want to keep watering it.
Like the same amount of water on top?
No. You just pour the water in, put it in your dish drainer like that. And then when all the water's just about out, you put it back on. Right. This is like a dish drainer here. You can have this right next to your kitchen sink.
In 3 or 4 days of doing that, they'll end up with sprouts?
Yeah, within a couple of days, it'll start to sprout. And when you start to see the little green sprout, you just about start to green, you can just take the cover off and give it some sun. And then it takes about 4 to 5 days before they're ready to harvest. And when you harvest them,
4 or 5 days to sprout and 4 or 5 days more?
No, it takes 4 or 5 days pretty much overall, maybe a week overall. From the soak, you got the overnight soak, and then 2 days of sprouting, and then another 3, 4 days, maybe 5 days, depending on the weather. Because in the colder days it'll be slower, and in the hotter days it'll be faster. So it may take up to a week, anywhere 5 days to 7 days.
You're not watering on those days?
You're watering, you don't want them to dry out. You water them every day, but you don't want to overwater them. So, you got to kind of watch it. It's a plant, But if you overwater them, you got to watch for mold. So you don't want to overwater them, especially when they're starting to fill up the jar. If you get too much mold in it, and it's got lots and lots of water, maybe it'll start molding. So you just got to kind of play it by ear. It's a plant.
So those 2 tablespoons actually sprout to fill up the jar?
Yeah, if I fill the jar up with too much, like even like that much there, that will fill the jar all the way up with sprouts. They make about 15 times the size of what you would plant. So 2 tablespoons in a jar like this.
So once they're all ready to eat, you just pull them out as you go?
Well, we're getting to the harvesting part. So that's when we get to the harvesting part. Now the harvesting part, you'll see like on alfalfa and some of the other small sprouts like broccoli and clovers and radishes, they have little holes. That's the seed coat that they're in. So they have a hole. And it's not very hard at all. What I take is a large mixing bowl, and I dump them all out into a large mixing bowl. And then fill it up with water. You want the mixing bowl to be so much where the sprouts will actually kind of go down toward the bottom, and the holes will all float up to the top. And you just scoop them right off the top, and you throw the holes away because that's the dead matter. What you want to get at is the live food. Because the live food has all the amino acids and the proteins and vitamins and the minerals in it. Where the holes is just basically the fiber. I mean, it's not going to hurt you to eat them, but it's much tastier if they don't have the holes in them. And when you grow your own sprouts, you'll realize the stuff that you're buying in the store, that's about the best they can do because, it's mass produced and they got to put it on the shelves and they got to wait for you to buy it. But if you are growing it at home, you're in control of your own food source, they'll be crunchy and really, really tasty. You'll be surprised the difference in growing fresh sprouts as opposed to buying them in the store. And that's another reason why I love to throw my,
When you're camping, and you put the 2 tablespoons in the bag, and you put it in the creek, and you give it a, and then a bag full, is it 1 meal, 2 meals, 5 days worth? How much is
depends
that?
on how much you eat. That bag would last me a couple days. The 2 of us, we used to camp, my wife and I would camp together, and that was a couple days worth. So if we wanted to carry 2 bags and then keep them going, you know, so you got about 3 days. These types of sprouts, lentils and beans, you know, you can eat these right when they start to get the little root on them. You know, they'll actually soften up. You know, they're really hard right now. You know, you're like trying to bite into a raw bean.
Right.
But after you've been soaking them and watering them for days and they sprout and the dicot starts to show, and the dicot, that's the 2, this is the dicotyledons here of the plant. And you see the rest of the plant's growing up. This is the dicot. This is actually the seed. When you look at a seed, you take this part out. This is the seed. And when it sprouts, the 2 halves of that seed become a leaf. So these little dicots, when they first start to pop out, that's when it's really good. And this lettuce is very crunchy and nice.
Friends of mine.
So, and jar sprouting is very easy. And jar sprouting is especially good for you know, radish. You can grow any kinds. This one here is clover, alfalfa, fenugreek, broccoli, sesame, and garlic chives. So sometimes you make a mix of different seeds. You can buy different mixed seed mixes from different companies. And this mix here is made for pregnant and nursing women. It increases their milk production, and if you're feeding your kids sprouts, then they're more likely to eat bigger new vegetables when they get to be real little people. So you start them out when they're in the womb. So this is great for pregnant and nursing mothers. This is for my cats. I grow this for my cat. She likes greens too, and she doesn't like to go outside. She's kind of scared to go outside sometimes. This is wheat, oats, rye, barley, and flax. And I'll grow this like a microgreen and put it next to her food bowl, and then she kind of chews on it. You know, like when you see them outside and chew on pieces of grass.
Right.
What they're getting at is the chlorophyll. They want that chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is almost like it's the center, almost like blood. Blood and chlorophyll are the same. Plant chlorophyll is plant blood, and hemoglobin is human blood. They're almost identical in structure, except for the center of the So chlorophyll is the first thing that happens in plant synthesis when it converts the sunlight into, you know, something usable to the humans. It's chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is really good for you. It's a very healing substance. I won't get into wheatgrass, but wheatgrass can be juiced. I don't have my juicer. My juicer's out in California. But if you grow wheatgrass and you juice it, or barley grass, these kinds of grasses, you can you need a different kind of juicer than most people use. It's a grinder juicer, hand grinder, and you can juice that grass, and you're getting you know, some real high quality food out of that, and it will blood purify your blood, and it leaches toxins like crazy. It's the best thing you can do, probably, if you need to heal yourself.
Are those pea shoots? Are those pea shoots or what else?
This is sunflowers, and this is buckwheat. And that's what we're going to talk about next is microgreens. These are microgreens. This is, we call it like lettuce, buckwheat lettuce and sunflower lettuce. I get my mine from Sprout Man. He's in Tennessee. Organic, USDA organic, GMO-free. All these seeds here are all GMO-free and organic. These are from Sprout people. It's in San Francisco. I buy them from, these guys have really cool mixes and some more unusual type stuff like arugula and this mother's mix. This mother's mix was a customer that were sending in, so that's what works for them, so they made a mix of it. And then Handy Pantry, again, USDA organic. All these things are USDA organic. If you look at their websites, they're GMO-free also. Most of the sprout people have always been that way, or they've even heard about GMOs, and when you're sprouting back in the 70s, it was all about being organic and pesticide-free. Now, in addition to organic and pesticide-free, it's GMOs. You've got this genetically modified thing. And like when I was talking about sulforaphane in the broccoli being an anti-carcinogenic, it's great because it's a substance that doesn't work on one part of your body. It doesn't just work on the liver. It doesn't work on, whatever, the kidneys or whatever. It works on the basic cell structure in your body. It's organic, it's natural, and it works straight on your cell structure. So it works on broccoli. Yes, broccoli is highly anti-carcinogenic. So
you buy all your seeds online with your local stores?
No, I bought these at a community health food store in New Holland, and these lentils were like $3, and I get 2 crops out of this. If you're talking about 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons on these, you can go a little more than the alfalfa because they'll hold up more. But you can get like 50 cents a crop.
You can't just get like lentils or something out of the Save-A-Lot store. What are you getting?
Oh, no, these are made specially for sprouting. They test them for the germination rate. So they have a high germination rate because if you get sprouts that aren't tested like that, you'll get a lot of dead ones in there, and then the dead ones, of course, get moldy. So you want a good sprout that's made for sprouting. They grow them especially for that, and they have a high germination rate, and that helps control the mold. So.
And what's the name of the lentils?
There's Handy Pantry.
Yeah, I had that down.
That one.
The one from New
San
Holland.
Francisco is Sprout People.
The New Holland stores.
Community.
Is it the same place where all this was?
It's an Amish
You know, the
store.
thing where you go downstairs into it?
No,
It used to.
it was right on the main street in New Holland.
Right.
Some Amish people. I didn't know if there's a downstairs to it.
Well, there's this little health food store and yogurt, whatever, that was up on past New Holland.
No, this is right in downtown.
You know what I'm talking about, anybody?
But I've bought these even in supermarkets. I've seen these in supermarkets. These are the ones I've seen around here. You won't see Sprout People around here. You'll have to order them. But Sprout People has arugula, and then we also have this is a wonderful one. It's Bruno's Indoor Garden Mix. There's 13 different leafy vegetables in here, and I can't name them all because there's a bunch of them. But your curly leaf lettuce, your red leaf lettuce. There's some pet soy, other unusual, like a fancy spring garden mix, but with 13, it's got a lot more than the normal spring garden mix. This is wonderful. This you can grow past the microgreen stage into, just like in a row in your garden. And then if some of them get too big, you just pick the bigger ones out and kind of just pick at it, and you can keep a crop like this growing for a few weeks. And that's why I like the combination of the sprouts and the microgreens, because then you've got your lettuce underneath, you got your sprouts, and also you got your lentils and beans that make your protein. So it makes like a complete meal salad. And you could do it in space this size. You got a couple flats. You can get these flats. You can grow them neat. You can get these down at the dollar store, 50 cents to $1, two for $1, 3 for $1. You can grow little crops inside of these. Or you can grow microgreens in these. These come in little sets. So let's see. They have holes in them. And then the bottom one does not have those in it. So that's your bottom one. That catches your water. And then you've got this one here. That's your growing area there. There's two ways you can. I bought a kit for growing them, and these are mats, soil mats. If you're in an apartment, this might be better than than using dirt. So you can use one of these. There's 3 of them here. You just water it and then drop the seeds on top, and then you just pull the mat up like this and you just slice them right off. So this is good, but you got to buy them. So you got to buy the dirt too.
Can you reuse them, or do you have to throw it out?
No, you throw them out all the time. So I don't use these. I got them around, but I don't use them. What I use is regular old dirt. This is organic, blended of all. It's rather expensive. But once you buy your soil, I compost it too. So eventually, after a few crops, you're going to have a garbage can full of soil that's going to compost along with your garden scraps and other stuff. Junk. Even if you got a regular garden, all your household scraps and the grass clippings. So you're going to compost that and I'll keep around a couple garbage cans so they have one in rotation each time. And then you get a couple inches of dirt in there, just like that. Just like you would be growing some starter flowers for your garden. Tap it down a little bit. Now you'd want to water this down, and this is what I use, is a little spritzer. Generally, I'll just pour the water onto in here. I'm just kind of showing what to do. We've actually got some sunflowers that I've had soaking, and they're sprouting now, so we're going to plant them. So it should be a little bit wet, but I don't want to get. You don't want it to be too wet where it's sloppy and ugly. Just enough water to kind of moisten it down. So I'll do that, and then I'll spritz it so that the whole top is nice and wet. Wet like that. And these are sunflower seeds. They may not look like the sunflowers you might use normal. They're black sunflowers because they have a high germination rate. So that's the kind of sprouts that I get. Sprout Man sells them in Tennessee. He's the cheapest that I've found, but you can get them. You don't want them to be too, like laying on top of each other. And you want to start them when you just start to see little bits of white. You can see little bits of white where they're just starting to crack open. They're just starting to crack open. So.
How long did you have them in the jar for?
I had them for about a day and a half, but it's been fairly hot, so they want to sprout really quick. I don't know why. It takes generally from 2 to 3 days.
And how much water did you put in there, and how many seeds?
Well, similar to this type of system, again, I soak them, but with sunflower and buckwheat, you want to go for about 12 hours soaking. You soak them for about 12, sometimes 18 hours. Again, in the winter, you might have to soak them for longer, but 12 to 18 hours you soak them, and then when they're done soaking, again, you put them on the rack, and you get them to sprout. You cover them. You don't want the sun on them while they're trying to sprout, because you got to imagine them being, if they were in the wild, they'd be in the dirt. So it would be dark. If you were the seed, it was like, when you want to sprout, you want the soil on top, and you want it to be dark. So it should be dark. And then in about 2 days, you'll start to see just they'll start to crack open. You'll see little white seeds coming out. And you don't want them too thick. It's better to have them too thin than it is to be too thick. So this jar actually makes about 2 crops. And this was about 6 or 7 ounces. So not even half of a pound. So there's about $2 worth here, and this is going to give you 2 crops of lettuce like that. And then you kind of spread and make sure they're not too thick, because if they're too thick, again, you know, they'll create mold conditions. And so you want it to be almost touching, but not too. So it's better to be too thin than too thick. And you just kind of make sure that they're all nice and done. And then kind of press them down into the soil. See this one here? This one here, he's a little quicker than all the rest. He's already got the sprouts. You'll notice some of them grow quicker than others, like humans. Some of them grow faster, some of them grow slower. So
Yeah, it doesn't matter about them being clumped like that.
yeah, you try. It's okay to be touching. You don't want it to be too much, right? But again, it's nature, so it's pretty tolerant of, you know, it can take a little punishment if it's too much, too close. And if you got them like these are outside and I'm spritzing them, and there's really not that big a chance of mold. I mean, if you really clump them up where they're like, you know, you got layers of them laying on top of each other, that's your problem. And then you also have some that grow faster and some that grow slower, so you almost have like two crops going at once. You know, there's like one coming in after the first one, and so then they'll get too tight. If you look in here, you'll see some of them there's some of them that are slower and are coming up behind, but not that many. You don't want it to be.
What is their yellow?
Yellow, that's the little seed
No,
sprout.
yellow.
Well, that one's kind of a little sickly. This guy's a little sickly, I guess. He's not as happy as the other sprouts. Not all the sprouts are going to be perfect. You know, some of them just, you know,
Now, you just pull
genetically.
that out completely. Is that how you eat them? Is you pull them out and wash off the
No,
tops?
and then that's when we're going to sacrifice the sprouts by harvesting.
They're what?
We'll actually harvest these sprouts at the end. So,
Okay.
right now.
So,
But you can pull them out. I mean, well, this one's got the root on it, but it's not what you need.
This is edible.
Why? Yeah. No, you're gonna die. Yes, it's quite edible. But see, they're kind of crunchy. And they're good.
Very good.
They're very good. I love sunflower sprouts. I like them better than lettuce. These are my favorite sprout. They're very crunchy and very tasty.
And this kind of, what's this, barley?
That's buckwheat. You can
Buckwheat.
try one of the buckwheats and see what that's like.
I have a question. What's the difference between micro and just like the sprouting?
I don't know. It's the terminology they use. They call this microgreens because it's to the dichotomous stage. See, that's the dichotomous stage. And with a sprout, you don't quite take it that far. Although I like an alfalfa, it does sprout the
I think
dichotomous.
I like buckwheat better.
Yeah, buckwheat's good, but you don't find this in the stores because it's sensitive. It's hard to, it's very sensitive to the heat. I baby these to make them look like this. I went out shopping today and I was gone for like 2 hours and I come back and you'll start to see them kind of drooping off on the sides here. And it's like, oh no, you know, so, you know, just like,
Was it outside?
like I'm a little
Was it
barber, you
outside
know.
in the heat?
I'm like,
Was it outside in the heat or?
yeah, I have them outside right in the direct sun. Yeah, I'm trying to photosynthesize. I'm trying to get chlorophyll, massive amounts of chlorophyll in these because that's what you want. So, you know, you got to kind of, you know, they like water, so you spritz them down.
So I guess my question I was asking, when I said sprouts versus microgreens, I buy alfalfa sprouts in the store, you know, they're in the little container and they're real thin, like flimsy. They are a dicot. They're very tiny.
Yeah.
So what does a regular sprout look like then? I mean, they're just cracked open and not...
It's just the terminology that
Okay.
they call these sprouts, and they call these microgreens. I guess it's probably because of the system. You grow these in soil.
Okay.
I mean, if you grew these in a jar, then I guess you would call them sprouts.
Okay.
If you grow them in a tray like this, you call them microgreens.
So with dirt
But
probably.
with sunflower, you got all the holes and stuff where they probably wouldn't grow as nicely in a jar, and that's why they do them in the soil.
Okay.
I always think it's like a rice paper circle. And it's like making a burrito with it, but it's really interesting. And then I lay in these, they're expensive, it's like pea shoots.
Mhm.
make a whole tray of pea shoots for myself.
I just harvested pea shoots yesterday. And
You didn't bring any here?
I have it in my refrigerator. I actually have 3 Tupperwares of the size already in my refrigerator. A flat makes about one of these.
So where do I get the seeds for the pea shoots? And the pea shoots that they sell are about this tall.
Yeah, like you would get in like a fancy restaurant, like a crab cake on pea shoots and stuff like that. Yeah. But you can grow your own, just like this.
Yeah, so
This is
where do
the
I
same
get
technique.
the starter seeds for that? For the pea
You'd have to shop around, or you can order by mail through any of these people.
shoots? Where's your favorite place?
For peas,
Yeah.
I got my peas at the Eastern Market.
No kidding.
When I was at the Eastern Market, there was somebody who had a couple little jelly jars. They had 4 jelly jars, and they wanted $2 a piece for them. So I said, oh, I'll take them all. And then they had them again the next time I went. I said, oh, I'll take them all. So yeah, I got the 8 jelly jars, plus all the pea shoots, which was a jar. It ended up being a jar this size of pea shoots, plus all the jelly jars, which was a great deal, I thought, because I'll get
So that's not going to happen.
probably 10 or 10.
Is it
Probably
seasonal, kind of like peas, regular peas that you grow in the garden, or are the first?
She didn't know what kind of peas they were, but all the peas are edible. Peas don't like the sunlight, like buckwheat loves sunlight, you know, but pea shoots don't like the sunlight, so peas would be a good one if you wanted to grow indoors during winter. Peas would be an excellent one to grow indoors during winter. So anyway, when you get to this stage here, there's 2 ways that you can do
Sorry,
this.
Mark, to grow indoors, what do you typically do as far as lighting?
To grow regular sprouts like these type of sprouts,
The microgreens.
you should have pretty good sunlight for these. If you if you try to grow them indoors and you find that they're a little yellow, you know, kind of yellowish, and they're not quite